You know him from the hit movie Grandma Was Slow, but She Was Old. Please join me in giving a hearty comedy club welcome to Jimmy Dean Parker.
All right. All right. Well, I'm glad to be here tonight. You know, I live in Bellevue, Nebraska. I've lived here for several years now. But when I was growing up, we moved around a lot, mostly in the middle of the night and mostly to avoid the law and the bill collectors. But when I was growing up, I lived in 3 different places. We lived in Alabama, I lived in Kentucky, and I lived in West Virginia. And it's a wonder I ever learned to wear shoes. But I did learn to wear shoes, as you can tell. And when I was younger, I did get to wear shoes. My family had a pair, and my brothers and I shared it, and I got to wear it on Thursdays. And the shoe was a lady's left high heel, and I'd be so proud wearing that to school. We didn't have a lot of money. We were kind of poor growing up. We were so poor we fought the roaches for food. And we all lived there was a lot of us, and we lived in this little house. And most of my houses had tarp and tires on the roof. But there was a bunch of us, and we're living in this little house. And in the house is where I learned how to dance, waiting for my turn at the bathroom. But my mom taught me this other dance. I called it the one arm. It looked like this. And Mom's part involved a wooden spoon. So we lived out in West Virginia at one point, and we lived way down this country road. And you just drive, and you drive, and you drive, and you finally get out to our house. And across the street from our house was this beat-up old rundown shack, and it was a real-life biker bar. I mean, a biker bar, complete with the Harleys and the leather and the fighting and the yelling and the liquor and all that kind of cool stuff. And we lived right across the street from it. And about once a week, a couple of those great big mean burly biker guys would cross the street, and they'd cross over our yard, and they'd come up to the house and knock on the door. It was awesome. Let's do it again. Knock on the door, and they'd ask us to keep the noise down. And most of those guys were really, really polite, because I think every one of them would have backed down from a fight with my mom. Because Mom once a week would walk across the street to their place and kick the door in and yell, "The feud's back on!" So we finally left living way out there in the country, and we got to move into the big city. And we lived up on top of a hill, and my bedroom was down in the basement. And now listen, our basement was not this fancy finished basement with walls and doors. This basement was unfinished. It was block walls, and that was it. And you could see through the walls. Not that they were glass, but there were cracks in it. And it wasn't that you could see through it and see just a little bit of light coming through. You could see well enough to recognize the face of the police officer who's coming up to the house for the 3rd time that night. The cops were at my house so often, they thought about putting a substation in the basement with me. But most of the time, they come out to the house because almost every one of our family discussions began with, "Put the gun down." But the cracks in the wall up here in this basement is, the bad part was wintertime would come and it'd get so cold in there. And it would, I mean, our bedroom was freezing. It was so cold, my brother and I had to salt the steps on the way down. And once we got there, I had to kick a hole in the ice bog to get in. And one morning, I woke up, and my brother looked over at me, and he thought I had grown a beard during the night, but really it was frozen drool. But I think one of the best memories I had from growing up was when we were in Alabama. My father took me out to teach me to swim. And we got in a rowboat, and Dad rowed us out to the middle of the river, and then he just threw me into the water, because that's how you taught people to swim. So he throws me in the water, and I flail around and dog paddle my way back to the boat and pull myself in and roll into the boat. And Dad just throws me right back in. And I'd flail and dog paddle and finally get back in the boat. And this went on for a while until I finally got good at the overhand stroke and a couple other things. And I got real strong at swimming. And every time he'd throw me in, I would get back in the boat even quicker. And finally, Dad started to add a little challenge to it. And as soon as he'd shove me out, he'd start rowing as fast as he could. And then I would have to flail and swim as hard as I could to catch up with him. And we did that, and I got pretty fast and quick. And it was just one of the most awesome father-son bonding times I'd ever had in my life. Until I realized he wasn't trying to teach me to swim. All right, folks, I've had a great time. Just not tonight.